Okay, what is up, everyone? Doing a recap on today. I'm going to be brutally honest from the get-go. Today was a horrible, horrible day for me. I traded really poorly. Fortunately, on my eval account, which I'll get onto in a little bit. Essentially, today, I don't know what it was. I just didn't feel um, fully on it. I think the first 2 hours I did, and then my focus just sort of slipped away, and that can happen. I do need to get a little bit better, I think, at figuring out when I need to just sort of like move away, I guess. Um, the good news is that, like I said, I didn't take any dumb trades on my live account. I was very disciplined with that. There was one trade I potentially could have avoided, but I did a good job with that. But unfortunately, my eval, I kind of went crazy on it at one point and ended up blowing the account, which is kind of funny, if I'm honest. It's not very professional. I'm not impressed with myself, but at the same time, I'm not too disappointed because it is only an eval, and I'd much rather do it on my evals than my live account. So yeah, blown eval, but on none of the trades I lost on the eval were legitimate setups, which is kind of what I'm using it for. So I'm going to go through my live account first, then I'll show you the eval trades. So um, we opened up, we were super choppy this morning. There was some pretty big news at 10 a.m., so I wasn't expecting there to be much early on. And frustratingly, I got super close to getting the trigger here. So we've got a beautiful situation where we have a double top. Kind of turns into almost like a triple top. We got below the 50 EMA after this, and this here is, I think, really what you want to look for. I know someone commented recently saying that they've been trading similar strategy. You want to look for these sort of like accumulation periods at the highs, because this is like, okay, people are trying, they're failing, which means it's swollen with longs. So I was looking for this, and then it got below the 50 EMA, and my rule is to typically wait for 4 or 5 candles of consolidation below the 50 EMA if I'm taking a breakout. And this was kind of on the fourth, so it's like, if this candle can hold, then I'll take it. And unfortunately, it broke just a tiny bit too early, and it sold off. So it didn't take part in that trade, sadly enough. But it's another. I always see these. It's frustrating when this happens, but it's again showing, hey, my edge is there, it's prevalent, and it works. So that's really good. So the first trade that I did take, we had this low of day that was set around 10.22. It then retested, had a false breakdown, put in a higher low hold in that area. And this time we did get a setup. It was probably one of the easiest setups I think I've ever had. We had this flag break. I got in maybe a touch early, but I'm pretty happy with this at 16.5, 77.25. I was risking down to around here, so around about a 10-point risk. So, when I'm having 10-point risk, I'm looking when I take a flag to get out at the top of that flag, maybe a bit of a push. We took that flag out, we were just struggling, so I took the first piece off for around about 7.5 points of profit. And then the rest, well, the rest I kind of screwed up on. My target was up here, and there was no reason why I shouldn't have just left it. But as it pushed into the 16,600, I think I was a little bit wary of having a red day yesterday, wanting to make sure I locked in profit. So it pushed through, it failed, and I thought I was going to get out like 16,601 or 2, but bit of slippage or just got out at the wrong time. So I ended up getting the rest of that one out at 16.5, 99.50, and really should have got an extra 7 or 8 points out of that one. So I think performance-wise on this, there was 10 points left on the table, but overall it was a good trade. We then had this really strange price action where this kind of looks exactly like my edge, like this topping out, slowing down, but for me, we didn't get any kind of double top on this. So although there was a period where, yes, we did hold under the 50 EMA and there was a potential short, I didn't take this, and I'm fine with that. It sold off, but there was nothing really I could do. Next opportunity, again, I didn't take it. I know I go through these, I didn't take them, so like, why am I putting it in there? The reason is because I want to sort of like demonstrate where the edge is. And you can see here, it's double bottomed at the low of day. It's put in this really clean, I'll type this up actually. We put in this really clean accumulation period at the low of day. And it's that same type of pattern that we had up here as well, where you just get sort of like, the equivalent of like 5 minutes where it tries and tries and tries and fails. And frustratingly enough, this one got above the 50 EMA. It wasn't really doing much. We were getting closer to the FOMC minutes, and frustratingly, it just didn't quite tag the 50 EMA, and as a result, I didn't take it. If I was looking for something like this, and obviously it would have been a really nice winner. So another time when I'm identifying my situation where there's an edge, we put in a double bottom, we get all the signs. Unfortunately, I just didn't get an entry. So I think this did have a little bit of part to play in where I then screwed up on my eval account, because part of me was like, I could be up 2k or whatever. And the truth of the matter is I could be, but I didn't actually get legitimate signals. So in the future, I might be a little bit more lenient to take some of these, but right now I want to go the other way and go, if I don't get 100%, I don't want to take this. And on my live account today, I did an okay job at that. Next trade I took, and this is the one that I feel like I could have avoided, but it was one of those where I would say technically it's a fully legitimate setup. We put in a double top, we get back below the 50 EMA. The the issue was with this, we got this really nice flag. There's two things that I have kind of like an issue with here. The first one is it's 144 and the FOMC minutes came out 15 minutes later. So straight away, I could probably just sort of like say, okay, from 130 onwards, we're not going to take a trade. Even if there is an opportunity, I'm not going to take it. It's an unknown situation. The second thing is, although we do put in a double top, it kind of puts a pretty big pullback in beforehand, and we can see that, like, this here, it's pulled back from 620 all the way. It's had like a 50-point move, whereas when we got a setup here, how similar is this? Let's see. So 44, 84. It's similar. It's a 40-point move, but for whatever reason, it just felt something felt off. I don't know whether it's because when we tagged the 50 EMA was a long way away. Even still, from a technical point of view, this was fine. I got in short here at 16.5, 82.75. It missed my take profit by like a point and a bit. I was really happy with this move. I adjusted my stop, got stopped out for a relatively small loss. I think combined was 10 points on both. I then accidentally put an order in here, and this is where things began going a little bit wrong for me, because I meant to sort of line up another order for this and was like, hey, we could potentially take another trade in here, and that one would have been a small winner, but this is too close to FOMC, so I shouldn't have really been thinking about it. So that was an accidental trade. I did lose 1.5 points in it, which is always a little bit frustrating, but sometimes I've done this and then won 1.5 points, so it's whatever. And then the next legitimate setup that I took on my live account, I kind of screwed up a little bit, and that's because of what happened in here, which we'll talk about. But we get a beautiful double top. We get that same type of accumulation type pattern up here. We try and we fail. We get below the 50 EMA, and I was waiting and waiting. I was like, where is the momentum going to be here? Because I don't want to take it, super early. In the end, if we count my bars, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, I potentially could have gone short here, sort of like 92.25, and risked to probably here and being like, okay, we've got a 12, a 12-point risk. That would be fine. And had I taken that trade, it would have worked out, so it would have been fine. But I was very wary at the time of this here acting as potential support. And whenever I take a breakout trade, I want to get in and it to go straight away. So I waited and ended up not getting a great fill at 16.5, 89.25. My risk on this was only going to be to the 15,600. The reason for that was twofold. One, when I take a breakout, I don't want to risk to the top of the consolidation, because I'm getting in at a point I'm expecting momentum to come in at. So if I get in and I'm wrong, I don't want to, like, I should be right straight away on these, okay? So that was reason one. Reason two, if I'm being brutally honest, I was feeling it a bit, that I felt like I could be up a lot more than I was. I wanted to kind of protect my profit for the day, even though it wasn't all that much. It was only like 300 and something at that point. And I didn't want to, take a massive loss and end up down to 300 on a day where I really felt like I could have been up quite a bit. On top of that, this was also around the point that I blew my eval, so I knew that mentally I was just completely out of it. There were so many trades, which I'll go through, that I took in here, which were just stupid trades that shouldn't have happened. And I didn't want to just fall into that trap again. In the end, I get in. It did actually push up, but it did sell off. I got an okay exit. I possibly could have gone for a little bit more, but I was, on these breakout trades, I'm very happy just to take 6, 7, 8 points if I get the move, and that's what I did. It continued lower, and I made a bit of a mistake here, because even though it went 15 points in my favor, which is a decent amount, I should have moved my stop probably just to like 95. I should have gone, okay, we'll move it to the, the open of this candle here, and said 94, 95, and said, okay, worst case, it's a scratch trade. It could pull back. It's, this is a pretty typical situation where it pulls back into the breakout level and retests. I put my stop to break even, and again, I gave myself reasons. I was like, oh, look, this was the breakout candle. This was the breakdown candle here, but I was like, this is the breakdown candle. So I moved my stop. I get out for break even. So in the end, like, I make 7 points on the trade. If I had moved my stop to where I really should have done, which is in my strategy, I would have moved it to, like I said, 94, 95, break even trade, worst case, and it then sold off right down into my final target. And this is a little bit of a frustration. 35 points here, that's $700. So, to give you an idea of, that one smallish mistake. Today my live account's up 460 after fees around about 430, so decent. But I look back at it and I go, I gave up $700 by moving my stop too tight when I shouldn't have done, and arguably could have avoided this trade entirely, which was another 200. So now I'm at like $900 worth of mistakes, and then combine that as well with the fact of this here giving up 10 points. I'm looking at like $1,100 worth of mistakes. So part of me is, pleased to be green, especially mentally. I just felt completely out of it today, and if I have these kind of days every day, then fine. But it's another day where I feel like I've not executed well enough, and although I've done an okay job, there's a lot of room for improvement. The good side of that is that, like, these 2 days combined, yesterday I could well have been up like 700 to 1100, and today could have been up like 1500. It really shows that the potential of my strategy is massive, and in 2 days I could have made like 7 times my average risk. So that side is good, and it's now just the performance side. I am trying, as I've said last time, to really look at the longer term and go, okay, let's not worry about the P&L, let's worry more about performance. And at times I've done that, but I'm not quite there yet, I will admit. Let's now look at this eval count, which, as you can see, negative 1600, and it hit the stop. So I'll bring over real quick my eval count. This one, like I said, I'm not proud of in the slightest, and I think it does explain why some of those mistakes were made. So first trade took exactly the same as my live account. And then I immediately took a trade that I really didn't like. And essentially, I decided that for whatever reason, this flag here kind of counted more as a breakout, and I could therefore continue to look for flags. And despite having the big move, I don't even know why, honestly, I decided to take a long in here. It did give a bit of a move, but not enough for me to take any profit on. I ended up taking a small loss. And that, I would say, is just a complete numpty trade, or a complete dum-dum trade, or an idiot trade, however you want to describe it. It was very much forced. I think possibly I could have made more. There was definitely thoughts at the time of like, this could go way higher, this could rip, I want to take it, and that's not the attitude I want to have. So bad trade there. I then took 2 trades in here, and the only good thing about having the eval account is that the sort of like the trades that I go, oh, I could take that, I end up taking on eval rather than live account, so it does protect me a bit. But I want to be taking only goods, or I don't want to take any trades where I know they're bad, but I take them anyway. And this was a really good example of that, where we only had 1, 2, 3 candles below the 50 EMA. I jumped in and got stopped out straight away for like a 6-point loss or whatever. Not a good trade. And then I kind of did the same again here, where although we've held below the 50 EMA, it's not really below the 50 EMA. It's only a couple of, like, it's just not enough. Like, compare that to this, which was much closer to a setup. Here we've got a really nice, clearly above, bit of daylight between the 50 EMA and price. Same with this flag here. Same with like every single setup, like, that was legitimate. Here, a bit of daylight between the 50 EMA and that move. Even this here, like the consolidation, by the time I took the trade, like we got a little bit away from it. So couple of bad trades in there. One of them did make a small profit. I took the same trade as I did on my live accounts here. Then things began getting a little bit silly. So FOMC came out, and or the minutes came out, and I saw we bounced off of this, and we ripped immediately higher. And my first thought was I could just take a short here. It looks really good. I wasn't really thinking about my edge. And then I realized, oh, look, we're above the 50 EMA, and it put in a double bottom. So technically, this is a setup. So I jumped in long here. I took half out for a small gain and the rest out for a small loss. So pretty much a break-even trade. The next trade I took, I used this and was like, oh, we've run into the same area of resistance. And I don't hate this from a idea point of view. But if I zoom out, like, this is not a clear area of resistance. It's also immediately after FOMC minutes come out, so it's volatile, it's whippy. There's no edge here. I need to wait really for a much cleaner setup, and I didn't. And on my eval, I just took this short, got stopped out straight away for a pretty decent loss. And at this point, I realized I didn't have all that much room left, and I ended up taking I think it was 6 contracts on this, which is really dumb. And I just got short here. I kind of panicked into this thinking I might miss the trade. And as you can see, that the funniest thing with this is even if I'd taken it here, my risk should have been to around about here. I think I was giving myself like 12.5 points. If I'd have taken normal size, I wouldn't have got stopped out, and I'd have had a nice winning trade. So this is poetic justice. When I take it too big of a size, I get stopped out. It ends up working out, whatever. So yeah, it's wasteful because it's if I'd have traded, if I'd have executed only my on my live account, like this account would be doing just fine. But I pushed a bit too much for some trades and kind of YOLO'd my way to blowing that account. So a little bit embarrassing in that respect. I would say that today is one of those kind of like bittersweet days where I'll look back and I'll go, I prove every single day that my edge works. The potential in it is massive. This short potential here was great. This long potential here was great. This long potential here was great, and then this short here was great. So I'm getting very consistent results from my strategy. It is just the performance side, and the great thing about prop firms is I'm in a position where worst case I blow a live account and then I have $5,000 across 2 more accounts that I can try to get funded with. I can trade with. So I am kind of looking at it as a, I definitely have the edge here, and it is a case of saying, okay, over the next 2-3 months, try to improve day on day. I did a better job today on my live account than I did yesterday, and that is a step forward, I suppose. So, bit of a weird one. Hope you enjoyed. And yeah, I'll see you again in tomorrow's video.